Okay. All right. Hi everyone, a very warm welcome to this month's innovBite. Let's give it a few more minutes while we wait for more people to come in, all right? Okay. So while we are waiting, in the meantime, you can feel free to grab a drink or a quick bite to enjoy the talk as well, okay? All right, I think we shall just start to be on time. So today's, or rather this month's innovBite is on game-based learning. So we are actually featuring a tool called Rolljak. And so we have Mr. Aditya with us today. All right. So a very short introduction on him. He's the CEO of Codomo, and he's also the co-creator of Rolljak, which is the tool we are featuring. So Aditya is very passionate about lifelong learning and also innovation through gamification. So he's really excited to share with us about Rolljak. And personally, I've tried it before, and I think it's a really good tool for engagement, especially if you're conducting classes online and you have cases where students just off their screen and they go on mute. So having this kind of engagement tool is really helpful in that sense, okay? And without further ado, over to you, Mr. Aditya.
Thank you so much, Siving. I really appreciate it. And a very warm welcome to everyone who's joining us and who is still coming in. My name is Aditya, and I, as Siving just mentioned, am the co-founder and CEO of Codomo. We are a local Singaporean education technology company, and what we do is always driven by providing delightful learning experiences that are embedded in future-ready learning and future-ready skills. And we achieve that usually through gamification, right? So it's the confluence of providing gamification for future-ready learning, right? And my background is also in software and technology, but I also do a lot of teaching. I'm the founding batch of SUTD, so SUTD Pioneer, Singapore University of Technology and Design, where I also hold an adjunct position running primarily corporate training in technology and design thinking, right? And that's actually what got me started on my journey with Rolljak. So I'm pretty pleased to be in the midst of a lot of very esteemed corporate and adult trainers. So and trainers from all walks of life, and I'm sure you know a lot about what I'm going to cover, but I'm going to try and provide a different flavor of what game-based learning is. So without wasting any more time, I'm just going to share my screen with you and give you a walkthrough of um, what we have covered today, what we have in store today. Sorry, I have two of the same tabs open. Just give me a sec. I need to remove one of them. There you go. Okay, there you go. So hello and welcome. So in today's session, I will be covering game-based learning and really what it means. And of course, there will be a little bit here and there of shameless plugs of Rolljak, just to tie in how Rolljak is trying to really provide a holistic experience of what it means to do game-based learning. So let's get into it, right? And this is basically what I'll be covering today. So I'll be covering, just the definition of game-based learning and gamification and whether or not they're the same thing, right? So spoiler alert, they are not, right? But they're very similar. Excuse me. And what's so game changing about gamification, right? So what's so good about it, and how do you actually incorporate that seamlessly and easily into your trainings and your lessons, right? And as a bonus, I don't think we'll be able to cover, the bonus part in the 1 hour. So if anyone wants to stay on, I will be happy to provide, a live demo for Rolljak, and we can cover some of the things in depth as well. So I'm happy to do that beyond the 1 hour session that we have. If you have any questions along the way, so you are more than welcome to just put them into the chat. I will take them as they come along. I will also have a Q&A segment at the end, so whichever you prefer. So let's start with the most important thing, which is defining gamification, right? So what is gamification and what does that really mean for us? Now, the best way, actually, the most common definition of gamification is is very simple, is the use of game elements in a non-game setting, right? So pretty much anything can be gamified, right? So gamification is not just restricted or limited to learning and education and academia. It can be for anything. So when you're using game elements in a non-game environment, and a lot of our apps and consumer electronics try to do these things nowadays by introducing point systems and so on. But it's actually not just as simple as introducing point systems to achieve gamification, right? So I'll be covering the few levers or um, the factors that affect gamification. So gamification is about introducing a fun, smooth, competitive environment, or not. It could be cooperative as well. So an environment that instills some sort of interaction across people. That's a good definition of gamification. So let's take it a step further, and now let's look at what are some of the elements of gamification, right? So look at this wheel. This basically defines some of the key elements of what it means to do gamification, which is action, social, mastery, achievement, immersion, creativity. I'll be covering all of these 6 elements in greater detail. So, but basically, what this means is action is about what kind of actions you want people to take, what kind of social interaction you have, how do you achieve mastery in something through the process of play, right? And how do you celebrate that achievement, or how do you show people that they have actually achieved something? How do you make that immersive? And finally, how do you spark people's creativity? Means how do you get different kind of end outcomes from the same journey, right? Instead of everyone having the same thing, right? And let's dive into the first element. So starting with action. So gamification elements of action, a good example of it would be having a clear objective or a clear goal, right? So goal setting, because that requires people to take certain actions which are very specific. So what you're seeing on the screen here is like a charades game, right? So you just put up your phone and you have to guess the word on the phone, right? So it's a clear goal to strive for, giving a sense of progress, right? And the goal setting typically, and I'm sure you've heard of SMART goal setting, right? So SMART goals are things that are goals which are specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound, right? And those are typically um, the way we like to set goals, really, because with SMART goals, you have very clear actions that you want people to take in order to achieve those end objectives. But of course, actions are not limited to objectives. It's just an example of actions, but just like being clear on the actions that you require people to take, right, would be the first element of gamification. So um, I'm at home, and my house is right on the approach to Paya Lebar Air Base. So there's a lot of plane flying over. So please excuse me. All right. So the next element of gamification I want to talk about is the social element of gamification. and how you actually incorporate that. So social essentially just means like, how do you make the learning journey, in our case for gamification, the learning journey social? Like, how do you introduce social interaction? And like I said, it does not always need to be competition. It could be cooperation as well, right? But some sort of social interaction. And in this case, I'm just giving you an example of competition because I think that's kind of like a very common theme in gamification. So competitions can take like many different forms, as you know. So, but it's just a powerful motivator that, keeps people engaged and just stimulated to keep moving, right? So, um, it's also as much of an experience because when we interact with people, our brains form better connections because our brains are wired to, tie information together with interpersonal experiences and connections. And when you actually can tie a learning outcome to that, that actually really helps with retention. So that's why social elements are very important in gamification. So moving on to number three, which is mastery. And mastery basically is more about the example I'm giving you is like a scoring, right? So how do you know that you've actually, how do you offer them a way to get better at something? And and how do you know, or how do you tell, learners that they are getting better at it, right? So this can come in the form of scoring or feedback, and this is really just to help them feel as though they are on a journey because they are, encouraged, and you give feedback to them in a timely manner, right? So it's really about introducing an element of mastery so they know that they're getting better at something. Because when you play games, just like when you play games, you want to level up, right? And you're getting better at things. And that's that same feeling that you want to have when you're introducing it in a game-based learning environment. And of course, usually this is achieved through leaderboards, scoring, or levels, right? So, and that helps you understand where you are in comparison to other people, right? So moving on, number four is awards, right? So awards, or rather achievements, which an example of which would be awards. So how do you actually allow people to, achieve something, and it's the reason why they work towards the goal. So it sort of ties into number one, which is action, and number three, which is mastery, right? So what is it that you're trying to achieve, and how do you celebrate that achievement, and what do you get out of it? So again, in a game based, or rather in a game, you would have badges, or certain certain upgrades that would be only available to you once you have achieved the goal, right? So that would be the same element. So what I'm showing you here is actually on the right is a screenshot of um, our wonderful clients, actually from all the way from Egypt, who are using Rolljak for teaching better sustainability practices and encouraging more knowledge on sustainability throughout their entire organization using Rolljak. So, and as you can see, those are our lovely winners of the session, right? Standing in front of their podiums, right? So it's a very good way for allowing people to trigger a sense of success at an opportune timing. Okay, so let's move on. And now we can talk about immersion. This is something I really love, and it's really a lot about role playing. So one of the key elements, one of the most important factors that determines the success uh, of any game-based learning tool or experience is how much do people actually associate that experience to actually learning, right? So the best learning tools, or the best game-based learning tools, are actually those which don't actually come across as educational, right? Because when you wrap the learning outcomes just within the experience, and people don't really know that they're learning something, that's actually when you get people to learn a lot. So two examples, one is on the screen, one is not. So the first one is Assassin's Creed. Assassin's Creed is a AAA game, really popular game across from Ubisoft, across all like platforms and even computers. So the game is actually uh, a lot of it's set in the Renaissance era, and anyone who plays this like understands so much about, the specific dates, time, location of real people in the Renaissance era, because they lived through that entire, entire experience. So there are a lot of memes out there that you can that you can find that Assassin's Creed teaches history better than most history teachers. The second example I want to give would be, if any of you out there have young kids, you would definitely know Minecraft, right? So Minecraft is actually a fantastic way to teach kids how to code, because kids love playing Minecraft and it's an open world environment, right? But you have to do things manually. So Minecraft allows you to write scripts in Python or JavaScript that allow you to automate processes such as like building houses or teleporting from place to place, right? And when you can do that, that's such a huge motivation for kids, because now they can get better at Minecraft and be better than their friends by, just learning to code, right? So there's a clear immersive motivation for them. So role playing is one, and I guess the second immersive one would really just be about hacking, right? So hacking the game, right? That would be that, both of these are really great ways for a contextual understanding of concepts. All right, so our last one is actually about creativity, right? And if anyone has seen this before, this is the egg drop experiment, where you are given an egg with a bunch of straw and tape, and you have to either throw the egg across. When I was in school, we had to throw it across the parade square, or you have to throw it down from the fifth level or from the first level or the third level, wherever it is, and make sure it survives, right? So you have to try and make the egg survive, and not crack, just by using straw and tape, right? So a lot of creativity can be expressed here, because everyone has the same building blocks, but no one comes up with the same solution, right? So it's really about allowing players to figure out their own approach and figure out their own answer, or their own approach to finding the answer. So you can discover different factors at play, and you can also discover like what factors affect what, in what kind of, um in what level, right? So by giving students like different materials, in this case, you can discover the importance of spreading out the impact on the egg. So no team comes up with the same end solution, and that's one of the beauties of introducing gamification, because everyone has a separate or unique learning journey, right? And that gives people a sense of ownership over their learning experience. And when people feel in control, especially students, when they're given a choice, they're a lot more engaged, right? So one of the key issues with learning retention and motivation and even engagement is the fact that there's a lack of choice. So it doesn't feel like I want to be here by choice. It's like I am forced to be here, right? So that's essentially, one of the core elements of gamification. All right. So now that we have covered the 6 building blocks of gamification, right? I want to also now talk about game-based learning, and I want to try and, explain what are the differences between them. And actually, it's quite simple, right? So gamification is using game elements in a non-game setting, right? That's what we said earlier. So gamification is using game elements in non-game settings, and game-based learning is basically a subset of gamification, because game-based learning just uses games directly, right? So using games for learning purposes is called game-based learning. And if you're not exactly using games, but you're using game-based elements to achieve learning outcomes, that's gamification for learning, right? So essentially those are, very simply the differences between these two things. This brings us to our second point in the agenda, right? What is so game-changing about gamification? So let's look at that. So learning hinges on motivation, right? A large part of, like I said, a large part of the struggle with for trainers and teachers um, is about student motivation, is really just about learner motivation, and we know this as trainers, right? So we need a reason to push ourselves to learn more or retain information better. Gamification offers motivation to you as on a silver platter, right? So it's the main way to engage with people. So as seen in this quote, so let me just read it out to you. So it says games are motivational in part due to their uncertain outcome and the focus on a goal or challenge that the user needs to accomplish. Right. So those are two key elements of gamification. Multiple game goals or different levels of goals provide incentives and challenges for players once an initial goal is accomplished. Right. So what that means is different levels of goals provide different kinds of incentives once it's accomplished. And game players, therefore, must develop skills and strategies in order to learn. And unlike most formal training, games have multiple paths to success. And this is exactly what I talked about when I talked about customization. So it's about the uncertainty of how to achieve that outcome. And it's everyone working towards the same goal, but having multiple ways to achieve it. Right. So that's a core element of motivation, because it's not like I need to do as I'm told. I need to figure out a strategy, right? And that's exactly it when you're even playing like chess, right? So there's no real way to win chess. Of course, you have good strategies and bad ones, but you have to make something work for you. And that's exactly what motivates learners when you put them in a game-based learning environment, because you're giving them choices, uncertainty, a goal, and they have to choose how to get to the goal, right? And that's the beauty of game-based learning or gamification. So some statistics for you, right? And how gamification works in training. So this is as seen in this quote, as seen in this study, right, by Finance Online. So what we see is that 80% of US workers believe game-based learning is more engaging, right? So we sort of know this already. Gamification works and we know it, right? And 50% of survey respondents basically said improved productivity because of gamification training features, right? So means better learning outcomes or better meetings or, better everything. Basically, people are more motivated and productive. And 60% increase in employee engagement as a result of gamification training features, and 50% of business transformations actually fail due to poor employee engagement because people are not motivated to make those changes that they are a part of because they don't feel like they have ownership of it. So why we're interested in gamifying our lessons is because research shows that gamification does meet its objectives, and contrary to popular belief, it has solidified its place in the corporate world, right? So I will talk more about like employee engagement, and because engagement is such a big part of achieving learning outcomes or even achieving training outcomes, right? And gamification, interestingly, promises engagement and more active learning, and that's why we know it works, right? So now let's talk about, so now that we know the benefits of using gamification, right, let's talk more about how to incorporate gamification into your trainings, right? So gamification, so I covered this wheel, right, with the action, social, mastery, achievement, immersion, creativity, right? So I covered this, but gamification effectively is administered with either um, two forms of end outcomes, right? Where learners are given either feedback or a chance to reflect, right? So it's through this that you let learners understand what they just have experienced, right? Through a debrief where you give them feedback, or through a reflection where they can, um, get to do that themselves, right? So this actually ensures that immersion and setup of the session has a high chance of success, and it always ensures, by ensuring that there's some sort of end outcome, by coupling that with the game mechanics, your learners feel like they have a mechanism to pick up what they are supposed to. Now, it doesn't mean that you need to actually achieve all 6 of these elements to have achieved gamification. You want to achieve as many as possible in order to have a better gamification engagement. Is there a similar report for Singapore or Asia? There are reports, but the more conclusive studies actually are not done in this part of the world. So, which is why I did not use those. Yeah. Okay. So, as I continue, so basically what I was trying to say here is that you don't need to cover all 6 elements of gamification in order to hit gamification, but the end outcome or the end output of gamification should have incorporated some component of feedback or reflection. Okay, so how do you actually incorporate gamification into your trainings or your lessons? Now, the first way to do it is finding off-the-shelf products that suit your needs, right? And if you want to use something, chances are that it already exists. So the first one I want to showcase is simulation softwares and programs. So there's this company called Ability, and they basically do this thing called Executive Challenge. I don't know if anyone has heard of it, but Executive Challenge allows you to enhance your leadership and strategic decision-making skills for your senior leaders. And I will show you a video actually of how they achieve this.
Executive Challenge is a team-based simulation that allows leaders to solve complex organizational problems, test their communication skills, discuss cross-departmental issues, and guide a virtual company to success. This leadership development program goes beyond traditional classroom lectures and role plays. It gets your business leaders out of their seats to collaborate with each other under the pressures of leading a company. Business leaders emerge from experience, practice, and hardship, from their failures and successes. Executive Challenge gives leaders this experience. How does Executive Challenge work? Your leaders take on a unique role in a company, launch new product lines, research new features, and form a development pipeline that rewards innovation, efficiency, and aggressive marketing. Realize a compelling vision to capture the market from the competition. Confront unexpected issues that can damage your company or propel it to new heights. As a team, your leaders strategize, make decisions, grow a virtual company, and compete against other teams. They'll discover their leadership styles. How will they shape a company's future as the CEO or the head of sales? What happens when leaders suddenly find themselves in new roles? With Executive Challenge, leaders will connect strategy with execution, break through departmental silos, view business issues from all angles, respond to unexpected events, balance short-term profitability with long-term sustainability, make ethical decisions aligned with business strategy, understand their personal strengths and weaknesses. Executive Challenge works because it puts leadership into practice. Executive Challenge works because facilitators connect the simulation to real-world outcomes. Executive Challenge works because Ability customizes the experience to address the issues that impact your business. With the experience and practice of Executive Challenge, your company's leaders will be prepared to tackle your biggest organizational problems. To learn more about Executive Challenge, contact us at sales@ability.com.
All right, so I'm in no way affiliated to them. I just thought that their tool is cool. Really, because if anyone over here, actually conducts leadership training, I think it's a really nice simulation environment. So really off the shelf, like you just, can just plug and play it. Of course, you can customize it also, which is, of course, one of our elements, right, of creativity, where you can have customization. So it's a really nice simulation or role playing that that you allow leaders to achieve, because that opens up different paradigms. They allow themselves to see how other people work and what their objectives are and what they are trying to achieve. Essentially, it's really about just reinforcing the cross-functional collaboration, because I think that's a large part of what is required in leadership training. Interestingly, we had a client in Philippines last year who actually used Rolljak for strategic planning and leadership training for about 80 odd people. So, I guess the reason they used it is really because of all the things we just covered, right? So the wheel and having that element of feedback and reflection. So I'll cover more about, how Rolljak achieves the outcomes of gamification in just a bit. But I just wanted to, give you different options of how you can actually incorporate gamification into your
Executive Challenge is a team-based
into your current, into your current processes or your current training. So um, again, I mean, this is just a recap of how Executive Challenge works. It's really basically in a sandbox role-playing environment, and you can customize things. And as you can tell, I'm pointing out a lot of the things in the wheel, right? Where there's role-playing, there's customization, there's a goal, and there's different options you can take. So, it pretty much checks most of the boxes or all the boxes of gamification. Okay, so moving on. Oh yes, just one case study from Executive Challenge. So one manager actually reported that as a result of the knowledge gained in the simulation, they were actually able to make better decisions and save the company $1.2 million, right? So really big outcomes that come out of it. And Executive Challenge, the company behind it called Ability, actually has multiple other products for management, business, enterprise. So a lot of different things that they offer. Yeah. How about using games for teaching, using games as a teaching tool? So really using board games or physical, tangible games that you can use and incorporate in your lesson to use it to achieve training outcomes through a game-based learning environment. And this is pretty much game-based learning, right? Because we're using games and incorporating them. That's why I said game-based learning, not gamification, but it's essentially the same thing. So some of the things that come from Singapore are as such, where you can use games to teach computer programming, use games to teach cybersecurity, use games to teach insurance and cryptocurrency. And the two on the left, Potato Pirates, are basically done by me and my team. So I'm the creator of Potato Pirates. That's our first product line that we started about 5-6 years ago, where we teach computer science and cybersecurity without any computers using board games, right? And the games have been really well received. Our games have been featured world over on New York Times, Wall Street Journal, USA Today, Forbes magazine, really because I think that it works, because it achieves the objectives that it set out to achieve, to make computer science more playful, more approachable, and just becoming a universal first step into the world of computer science for anyone. The one on the one on the right, and the two on the right hand side, are actually by our friends over at Wonga Mania. So Wonga Mania is actually by Capital Gains Studios, and so is Crypto Basics. So is the cryptocurrency game by Capital Gains Studios. So Capital Gains Studios is also a game studio based out of Singapore, where they make games for financial literacy, and they actually run programs and workshops around financial literacy, insurance, cryptocurrency, like how to actually have better financial planning for, like, buying a house, blah blah blah. So they actually have games around that. And if anyone has seen, there's actually a total defense game by the SCDF, if I'm not wrong. So Singapore Armed Forces, I'll just say, like, I can't remember which exact division actually came up with it, but they are also creating board games to engage with not just their own trainees, but also bringing it out to schools, bringing it to corporates for corporate training and such like that. So even in my experience, I mean, we run programming courses for a large part of Singapore's, like, public schools, but it's not just limited to schools, it's also for adults. So gamification pretty much works across the board, and there are no exceptions, because I think that's one of the um, baselines of all humans. Like, we love to play, right? So learning through play is always acceptable. So there are games made specifically for your field, right? And you can actually find them if you look hard enough. So you can always ask me if there's something that you're looking for and you're not sure, because I have looked into a lot of these things, because I've been involved in this field of gamification for the past many years now. So happy to connect with you if you're looking for something specific. All right, so now let's move into the second option. So if you can't find something off the shelf, and the off the shelf part would be about, of course, like game-based learning. So now we're talking about gamification, right? So where you're using game-based elements to achieve your training outcomes. And that's usually a lot easier to find, to find a tool or a platform or software that allows you to achieve that, because you have to also get creative, and it pushes your boundaries on how you can get the most out of your training session, using the product that you're using. So you can use a software to integrate learning outcomes directly using gamification. And I will talk to you more about Rolljak. So Rolljak is a collaborative game-based learning environment, and we built this product precisely on the principles that we just covered, specifically to achieve a couple of objectives. The first, to really boost learner engagement by really immersing them in a game-based learning environment, right? The second, to really unlock the potential of doing more collaborative or collaboration and peer-to-peer learning, really by introducing that more social element, which is our second element of gamification, right? So really covering all of those elements of gamification together with providing the feedback and review, the functionality of doing that to really provide a holistic game-based learning experience for anyone. So let's cover let me tell you a little bit more about the product, and then I'll cover how Rolljak actually ties into what I just talked about gamification. Okay, so Rolljak is the only audience engagement tool that supports open-ended collaborative discussions at scale in minutes without any hassle. Really, because if you want to get people involved in a large-scale discussion, especially if you're doing it online or hybrid, so if let's say you've like 25, 30, 50, 100 people that you want to engage with at the same time and get everyone involved in a classroom discussion or participation and get them to interact with each other, there's really nothing that allows you to achieve that. And Rolljak is really trying to push the boundaries of what is possible. So Rolljak works by helping facilitators create sessions that are filled with activities that are competitive and fun, right? And these activities can be both open-ended and close-ended, right? And let me give you a brief walkthrough of how a typical activity is structured. So the format of a Rolljak session or a Rolljak activity, it starts with, of course, you prepare a question and you can embed media into your question. And what you can then do, of course, is collect responses from every participant in your session. And once you've actually collected responses from them, you can enable them to actually collaborate with each other. So once you respond, you can then actually get someone else's response anonymously and collaborate anonymously with them and add on to what they have already done. And that's kind of unique because tying back into what I spoke about gamification, this is the same thing where we are achieving the same objective, but there's more options for us, right? So now we can actually add on to each other, and there's more social element, and there's more creativity involved because there's more customization, right? So you don't know what your end outcome of your response is going to look like, because there's more people who are going to add on to it or jam with you on it. And then finally, you can actually do peer-to-peer evaluation, right? So you can get students or learners engaged in a digital setting to be more socially involved and socially interacting through peer-to-peer evaluation, where you now allow learners to evaluate each other's responses in real time, right? And those are basically your scores for the session, which you can then review with everyone together, right? As a facilitator or as a teacher or faculty, you can review all the outputs of the activity or the session together, and learners get immediate feedback as well about how they did. and how their output or how their responses compare to the rest of their peers in that same session. So immediate feedback and immediate output. And very good question. Yes, there is a profanity filter. Uh, only in English right now. So so yes, the answer is yes, but of course, as you know, there are people who get very creative with trying to slide those things in. You can also reject responses, so you can also reject responses, so that also works. Yeah, and then we also have a leaderboard, and the way we score our leaderboard is based on engagement scores. So we actually monitor student engagement or learner engagement every step of the way, and we can churn all of this into a report where we don't just give you like the accuracy scores of every student, we also give you, or learner, we give you the accuracies, we give you the engagement scores of every single person in your session. And how engagement is actually tracked is based on how much they are participating in your activity. So are they doing the response? Are they actually collaborating with people if you set it for them? If someone actually just submits the same thing that they got and choose not to add anything, we can track that. As a facilitator, you can toggle how many people you want each person to be evaluating. And if you don't, so let's say you want each person to evaluate three people anonymously and they just do one, we can track that. So, and that gets converted to points, and points then get converted to engagement percentage. That gives you a very clear overview who is actually involved. So in this case, like on this call, like I can't see most of you, right? So, and that is a very common thing. I call that a Zoom graveyard, right? So most online sessions are sadly Zoom graveyards, and you have no idea what's going on the other side. But using a tool like Rolljak, even though you have no idea what's going on the other side, you can still get feedback for yourself also, feedback on who's actually involved and how much they are involved. So that's a really good tool for you as well. And of course, you get that achievement for players as well. So now let's break this down. How does Rolljak actually incorporate gamification? And I'm going to cover all of it, right? So starting from action, right? So we have question prompts and our phrase or phases, which give your participants a set boundary to work in. It's all time boxed, right? So you set the time. You can, of course, add time or remove time as you please, but it's all time boxed. So it's a clear action that people need to take and in a clear amount of time. So the objective is very clear. So the second element is about social interaction. So Rolljak is all about introducing peer-to-peer interaction through collaboration and peer-to-peer learning. And because a lot of what we are doing nowadays is about team-based, right? Team-based activities, team-based learning, and there's actually no way to facilitate a team-based session online or even offline at scale. If you use digital whiteboards, you cannot scale them, right? So you can only use Miro or any digital whiteboard with just 10 or 15 people. So Rolljak is providing that social element in a much larger setting, right? So now you can do that with 50, 100 people. So the third one is about mastery. So mastery is, of course, about giving people feedback that, hey, you're doing well, or you're getting better at something. And of course, we do that through our scoring system that acts as a means of valuing their responses. Fourth is achievement. So what are you achieving? The achievement is, of course, about same thing about leaderboard, like placing. So giving them a sense of competition, encouraging messages are given to people who are lagging, right? So you can still do it, right? So it gives them some sort of hope. And we do actually see a lot of, like, if we track participant scores, we do see a lot of people, like, coming from behind to take over, right, on the leaderboard. So that provides that element of unpredictability. Then there is immersion. So immersion through role playing and also through mini games, because if any of you have played Rolljak, you'll see this like sushi slashing game that we have in the middle of it. That's really just to keep your, to keep you entertained. It's a hyper casual game that you just slash sushi, because or else we're going to lose you and you're going to end up on Instagram, right? So having that more immersive thing. Okay, I'm going to take this question before I talk about creativity. So June asks, if I have a large group of 500 packs, I need to break them up into classes and compete by class. Can I do that? Aggregate the scores of each class? Yes. So our team-based mode actually works without any limits. So you can actually have 500 people on your session on Rolljak, split them up into teams. Each team is going to represent a class. And then you can get the classes to compete, and the leaderboard is based on teams. Yes. So it works exactly like what you described. And yes, you can also track individual scores. So the scores are both individual and team-based. Time permitting, I could show you a quick like report or a demo of how a team-based learning session would work. And finally, let's go to creativity. So creativity is built into Rolljak. It's really the flavor of Rolljak, because we have what we call Rolljak signature activities that are all about creative thinking. So these are all situational, just situations that you're put in to think rapidly and ideate, right? And one of the example is like on the screen right now, like how can you design a safety pin that is made of materials found outside, right? So it could be there are a lot of different kind of situational tests that we put people in. And our, what we call Rolljak signatures are all activities built on the elements of Scamper, but without going into the jargon of it. So creativity is really all about the open-endedness of activities and the different kind of choices that you allow learners to make along the way. And essentially that's what is encouraged by Rolljak, because a lot of what the point system is determined by is by peer-to-peer evaluation, right? So you can't really determine how well you're going to do because you don't know how well your idea or your response is going to be liked, right? So there's that element of unpredictability there. So that's essentially what creativity stands for. So now coming back to the last two elements, which is feedback and reflection. So we covered the 6 elements of gamification, but of course, to tie gamification in together is through either performing an element of feedback or reflection. And Rolljak offers both those things, where you have live feedback, not just because you can do polls and everything, but because you as a facilitator can go through everyone's responses on the screen and pick out the ones that you want to talk about, right? So that gives immediate feedback to people. And the same thing for reflection. By having participants evaluate one another, it actually does unlock higher order thinking skills, unlocks more critical thinking, because it gets them to think about how well should this be evaluated, or where does this question actually belong, or rather response actually belong. We have different ways of doing peer evaluation. Starting from the left, it's using metrics or parameters that you can set. So you can have up to 8 different metrics that you can allow people to evaluate each other on per response, right? And the middle one is what we call tags. So tags are really good for categorization or filtering out responses. And again, all of this is done by peers, right? So by your participants. So let's say you have, in June's case, let's say you have 500 people who are sending in responses, right? Let's say you ask them like, what are some of the problems with running trainings online, right? And they're throwing in a lot of responses. Now it's very difficult to manage those responses, which is why you can use things like tags to tag responses so that you can identify them, categorize them, filter them out, and really just prune them as and when you need. And the last one is actually, you can't really see it. So it's actually digital investment. So we give, you as a facilitator can choose how much digital currency you want to give to each student or participant, and they will then be able to invest in ideas or responses that they like. So it's really nice, lighthearted way of like crowdfunding responses to find the most promising element of that. The reason we do this is because the hallmark of any good discussion is 2 things, which is divergence and convergence, right? So divergence is about getting everyone involved. It's about student engagement. It's about making people participate. But once you collect all that data and the input, you need to have a way to filter through it to find the ones that are more promising, because you need an open-ended and a close-ended element of discussion to have a good discussion, right? So which is why we focus on getting everyone involved, getting people to send inputs, collaborate on it if you want, but also find a way to, converge upon the most promising outputs from the session, right? So at least you will have some takeaways from a discussion, and you can use that for the next, the next activities that you're planning to run. All right. So Rolljak for training. So you can actually use Rolljak for a lot of different kind of trainings, all the way from like subject-based learnings to corporate training to strategic planning, even to, teach about sustainability, for design thinking, for innovation. There are a lot of different kind of use cases for Rolljak, of course, like standard subject-based learning as well. So we sort of cover both open and close-ended. And the last one I want to talk about is what Suing also pointed out that she wanted to see, which was about our capability to run live and also self-paced, right? So what that means is live would mean like if we are all on a webinar or in a live classroom together, I could use Rolljak to interact with the audience immediately. But sometimes you want to do that on having learners do that on their own pace, right? So you can actually do self-paced learning through Rolljak. And let's say you're giving some assignments or students to do at their own time, you can actually do that through Rolljak as well. So it can be done live, which is sync, or self-paced, which is async. And we actually do integrate into all the major learning management systems, which make it very easy for students to, track their progress also, because students have their own accounts, teachers have their own accounts, so on and so forth. So a lot of different use cases for Rolljak that go from daily lessons to, meetings, presentations, employee onboarding, corporate training, so on and so forth, even for events. Yeah. So essentially Rolljak is thoughtfully designed to be a simple tool to gamify your lessons and trainings, regardless of what you are doing. And with that, I'm actually done with 10 minutes to spare. So I am now open for questions, but before I open it out to all of you, I would love if anyone is interested to see, to try a demo of Rolljak, you are welcome to stay beyond, 3 o'clock. Okay. So the parting words to use softwares that have gamification in their DNA to ensure easy setup, really, because that's the whole appeal of game-based learning softwares or platforms. So yeah, with that, I am done. Actually, I I wanted to cover this as the bonus. So let me just stop here and see if there are any questions. If not, maybe I can cover that bonus part as well.
So for everyone, anyone want to ask? Oh, there's a request to play the bonus. So let's see if anyone has any questions first. You may just type in the chat or just unmute yourself and ask the question. So far, no question. Okay, then let's just play the bonus.
Let's go. Yeah, let's do it. Okay, so here we have it. So I just wanted to talk about how you can actually incorporate game elements into your existing material, right? So is it something that Slido does, but Menti Kahoot doesn't? So Slido is really good for like getting people to send in inputs, and then you can upvote each other. But essentially that's the limits of Slido. Whereas with Rolljak, it's not just limited to that. I think there's a lot more interactivity where you can have a lot more deeper discussions at a larger scale. Jill asks, I've subscribed to Rolljak. Will there be support for a more full-fledged orientation? Jill, definitely. You can hit us up at hello@rolljak.com. We have a whole help section on the product as well. We have a lot of videos on YouTube as well, but you're more than welcome to get in touch with us if there is something that you specifically need, or if you want to request for an orientation as well. That's not a problem. Rolljak has the AI-enabled capability, Sally asks. Any showcase on this? Sure. Let me see what I can cover in the shortest amount of time possible. Okay, so now with that, I'm gonna go back to the slides, incorporating game elements into your existing materials. So let's, so of course, this is just a quick feedback. So current materials So typically you should look at your current material and ask, how can I incorporate these? So how can I incorporate as many elements of gamification and the parts about feedback and reflection? So the example I'm putting us in is let's say you're a HR professional and you are onboarding newcomers and you basically find yourself referring to a slide deck with a little engagement from your audience. So now that we've learned the company's values, here are some scenarios. So like you could put them into scenario, and I would like you to try writing how you will uphold our values. So now if you say this, now you're giving them a clear action because you're explaining the constraints. And then you have to write your responses on a post-it. And when you're done, leave a star on other responses or you liked, or you can comment on them. So now you're giving them a reward system, right? So you're giving them something to achieve. And you're also giving them that extra bonus of feedback because you are allowing them to comment on each other's responses. So let's say you say that each star is worth 1 point, and you as a trainer will make a final sweep and you will award 5 points. Now that's where you're awarding mastery, right? And you're also giving an extra bonus of wildcards. So this ties into the elements of creativity because there's a lot more uncertainty that allows them to bounce back, and you never know who's actually going to win, right? Or whose ideas are going to be shortlisted. So, and then finally, you want to keep a scoreboard at the end of the session with the final tally, you give the winning individual a prize, right? So let's say you want to do something like this to spice up your training. As you can see, what I just covered is not all elements of gamification, not in the order that I covered them in, but we covered a large amount of them, right? So I'm just pointing this out to you just so that you can be a bit more analytical about the things that you try and incorporate. So now what I was thinking was I would just jump over to Rolljak, and I can show you how to set up this activity that I just showed you. And I've never done this before on Rolljak. I'm just going to wing it, pun intended. so I'm just going to do that on the fly, and we'll see where it goes. Okay. So, and I will also cover the AI portion since someone asked for it. So this is Rolljak. This is the dashboard. We have recommended templates. I just clicked create session to get in, and it asks, am I running this live or self-paced? I'm going to run this live since we are all live. On your own time, you are welcome to try the self-paced mode. Now, Rolljak offers different activity types. It could be activities for opinions, quizzes, or you can try out our signature activities, which are all based on creative thinking, quick creative thinking skills. I love to use these, especially when I'm with a new audience, such as yourself. I would have, in the interest of time, I'm not. Really, because when people come into something new, they're like, don't really know what to expect. The person who's also presenting and doesn't really know what to expect. It just gets everyone's, days brightened up, gets everyone to let their guard down and have some fun, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just open up the open-ended activity. So here, so going back to the slides, as you saw here, HR professionals. So now some scenarios. I would like you to write how you will uphold the values. So I'll just ask, like, how will you uphold our company's values given this scenario? So I'm not really talking about what the scenario is, right? So I'm just assuming that we all know. So when you are doing that, when you're setting the activity up, you can actually decide how many responses you want to collect from everyone. You can actually fix it for everyone, so everyone gets to respond a certain number of times, or I just let them choose. So you get this plus button. You can add in as many as you want. You can treat each text box like a post-it note, right? And we're going to switch on collaboration, and collaboration is done randomly. I'll just do it once, and we'll set maybe just 30 seconds for people to collaborate really quick. And then I want to do some peer evaluation. Okay, so what I want is, so in this scenario over here, it was about giving stars. So what we will do is we will just invest in each other's ideas. I'm giving everyone a total sum of money of 1,000 Rolljak coins. It's digital currency, and we can invest in each other's responses. All right. And what we'll do is I'll let each person view 3 other people's responses, and your 1,000 coins are now going to be distributed across their responses. Now, with that, I'm done with this activity setup. I'm ready to go. I'm just going to do one more because I was asked to showcase the AI powered quizzing. So this is our AI scoring activity, where I would say we are probably the only platform in the world that can evaluate responses using AI in real time that are typed, right? Because a lot of what we try and do with knowledge testing is close-ended, right? And that's always about MCQs, right? So how can we actually really push the boundaries and do some formative or summative assessments using typed responses? So let's say I ask you, what is the process of digestion, right? And me as the facilitator, I will key in the right answer. So this works well for um, structured-based questions or for contextual knowledge where you want certain keywords to be hit and certain context to be provided. So I'm not going to give a really good answer, but it's just, I'm just showing you like your scores will be based on how close you are to my answer. So I'm just going to write digestion begins in the mouth and ends in the large intestine. Okay, so that's my model answer. And now everyone's responses are going to be evaluated against mine. But of course, if you want to actually do a good job at this, you have to type a good model answer where you cover all the keywords and whatnot. Okay, so, and I'm giving everyone maybe just a minute to do that. And finally, maybe I'll just throw in a simple unscramble just to show you, what this is. So unscramble is really good for constructing sentences or equations. So I'll just say, construct this sentence. Okay. And the options are going to be, this boy is named Joe. All right. So now those are our options. Maybe I can have like a is, am, are, just to throw people off. There's a question. Can I integrate Rolljak into PowerPoint, Google Slides so that I don't have to keep switching? Yes, that will be possible soon. Right now, what our focus is on is actually on integrating Rolljak into learning management systems, because that's pretty much our main clientele right now. So we support all major LMS such as Canvas, Schoology, Moodle, Blackboard. Yes. Did I miss someone? Yeah, the major ones, but we are working on a few like smaller integrations for local, like Asian LMS. June, which LMS is you or your institution using? You can just drop it in the chat. Okay, so here now we select the correct sequences. This boy is named Joe, right? And you can actually have multiple sequences, because if it's like cat and dog, dog and cat, so you want both to be marked correct. So you can actually do that. So I'm showing you an example for constructing sentences, but you can use this also for equation building or something like, H plus O2 equals H2O, that kind of thing. Okay. I'm getting kind of excited about like showing you more use cases. But I'm going to stop myself. Maybe I'll just show you like media upload, so you can upload images, GIFs. We have a GIF library. Of course, like students love GIFs. You can even embed YouTube videos. So like if I just choose this, then this is a math question about probability, right? So like you can embed YouTube videos here. And
Aditya, can we
yes.
show the student view of it as well? So just run through, say, like the AI. So question 2, how does it look like from the student's view
I'm going
or
to
the
run this
participant's
and get
view?
everyone to join it like right now, actually.
Oh, okay. That's great.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, did I move this? Okay. Okay. So the last thing I want is so I just realized I want to show you that you can actually use a Cartesian, like you can upload different things, and then I just had an idea to save this image. Let me just open it up before I save it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to upload this as a background for everyone to sketch over. And that way we can actually get you to sketch out, draw y equals to, let's say, x+1 graph. Okay, and you can actually add a background. I'm going to select the background that I just had, which is this, and done. So then I get to choose where I want it, and I'll do this, save, and now we're ready to go. Okay, here we go. So that's it. Done. Hold on. Yes. I'll just move this up here. And okay, so when I go into review, I'm actually asked if I want to do it in individual or team mode. So I think it was June who asked about teams. So you can actually have up to as many teams as you want, and you can rename the teams whatever you want, and you can have as many teams as you want. So if you're actually integrated into your LMS, you can assign Rolljak sessions to your course, and you can actually assign, this session to groups of students in a course. You can even import groups to make them teams. So let's say each class is a group. You can actually import them, and when students join through the LMS, they will be joining their exact group, so they don't have to choose. So let's introduce some friendly competition in team mode. We're gonna have team, let's just call it team A and team B, so you all can like join one of the teams. I was gonna say team Aditya and team Sewing, but let's not. Let's keep it friendly. Yeah? So okay, so I'm gonna run it in two teams. I hope everyone here who's on the call with us will join us on the session. Okay, so you can actually join with the link that I'm sharing in the chat, or you can just scan the QR code on your phone, right? So there's multiple ways to join. I'm just gonna use my phone. All right, so when you join, you'll likely be asked to draw yourself. So go ahead and draw the best version of yourself you can with your finger or your mouse. So when you join, just join either team A or team B. It doesn't really matter. But based on how many people are joining, just make it a bit more even. Okay, we have 17 people, and I think we have 30 people here on the call. Just waiting a few more minutes, or maybe just one more minute. Cool. Okay, so sometimes when people join and they are unassigned, so I think I'm not sure if Jill joined twice. So anyways, Jill, so since Jill is unassigned, so she hasn't chosen a team, I actually can control her or remove her from the session. Because you obviously can't have people who are not assigned to a team before you start. So Go SP is also unassigned. I'm just going to wait for him to choose a team. If he doesn't, I will assign him as a team. So the background actually that I've chosen here is pink. It's not our default setting, but I forgot to show you that you can actually set your own theme and you can actually upload your own logo. So we offer a white label solution. Okay, I'm starting. You can still join in the middle of the session. And if you haven't drawn yourself, which I haven't, this is your last chance to draw yourself. If not, very sad, you don't have an avatar. Okay, and I think we have everyone ready. Okay, good, let's start. Okay, so our first example is for the thing that I showed you in the chat. So how will you uphold our company's values given this scenario? So let's say the scenario is like, one of your employees is, misbehaving or something like that. So you can just type as many responses as you want. Here you can see on your screen, you have this plus button at the bottom left. You can add more responses as you wish, right? So you can choose to submit multiple responses. Okay, so last 20 seconds, just a couple of things. You can actually pause everyone centrally, so I can pause everyone's screens. If I want to actually give more instructions, I will resume that. If I wish to add more time, I can. And if I wish to not wait for everyone anymore, I can also do that, but I will wait for everyone. And we are done. Okay. So now I've switched on a collaboration phase where we're going to anonymously collaborate with someone. And on your screen now is someone else's response anonymously. And maybe it may be blank because if they didn't submit something, it will be blank. That's why you're seeing something blank, so don't be alarmed. So just go ahead and collaborate with them and make it better. So you're just jamming with them and you can, improve it in any way you think of. But of course, this is just a demo. Okay, and we are done. Okay, I didn't give a lot of time for this one. Okay, so now we are doing peer evaluation. So we have, on your screen, you have this bouncy thing that says tap to evaluate responses. Open that up. It will open up your wallet, your digital wallet that has currency in it and has 1,000 Rolljak coins exactly. And you can hit the plus and minus buttons to assign this cash or this currency to the responses as you like them, right? So you can scroll back and forth. When you're done, hit the tick button to submit. Last 10 seconds. Go ahead and submit. And if you're wondering why you're cutting sushi, like I said, it's just a mini game to keep you entertained and keep your fingers busy so that you don't end up somewhere else. And we are done. Okay, so some of you didn't actually submit, but that's fine. And here we go. So here we can see how each team is doing against the other, and I can actually click into it and see the insights from each team. So we have team B with an average investment of 350 and A with 340. Sorry, it's not loading. To compare. But basically, if I click into it, I will be able to see just everyone's responses and what they wrote, and we'll be able to see, do a deep dive into those responses. Let me give it another try. So the loading gods are not on my side. I will show it to you later in the gallery. Just my luck. Okay, so here we have the leaderboard where we have team B and team A. So we team B in the lead. And if you're wondering what these are, so these are actually full or partial collaboration bonuses and evaluation bonuses. How those are actually assigned are based on whether or not you're doing the full peer-to-peer evaluation, whether or not you're doing the full collaboration as well. Like I said, we track that at every step of the way. Okay, so this next one is about drawing a y equals to x plus 1 graph. So on your screen now, you have a Cartesian plane, and you can just swipe your finger across to draw it. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to end the activity right now. So I don't want to wait for the rest of the time. So I can actually do that. And I'm just going to submit. So if you haven't submitted already, please do so. So we're done. Okay. So now we'll be able to see everybody's responses in the gallery, and you will also be able to see how you did according to on your screen. So this is what we have. You can choose to see it by teams or by everyone. So if I click everyone, then we'll be able to see it by everyone. There we go. Okay, something's wrong. Yeah. So yeah, basically you are able to toggle to each team, and you can view more. So let me lower that. You can view all of the responses as you please. So if I click into view more, there, so it actually loads. Okay. So view more allows you to view all the team's responses. It gives you who the team members are. So you have a thorough understanding of what everyone is doing. New messages, just curious, are we able to track which participant who has logged in but did not interact? Yes. Yes, I will show you right at the end of the session how that works. Yeah. So now the next one is our AI scoring quiz that allows you to evaluate open-ended responses in real time. And the question is, what is the process of digestion? If you remember, I wrote the model answer, so you can go ahead and like type whatever you want. Oh, I think June, I think I misunderstood you. So you were saying that you want to prod those participants who are sleeping during the session. So at the end of the session, you can get a report. At the end of the session, you can get a report to see who was like actually engaged. But during the session, you can actually see who's submitting. Oh, sorry, time ran out. So you can actually see who has submitted and who has not. So yes, you can view. Basically, I think you were asking whether you can view live submissions. You can. And the second is that through the leaderboard also, you can tell who's actually, interacting or not. So there's two ways to prod participants who are not participating in the session. Okay, so let's look at this. So team B has an average of 43%. Okay, and the team's highest is 100% because Shan remembered the model answer. Well done, Shan. So I changed mine a bit just to show like small intestine. In the gallery later, we will be able to see each person's like individual each person's individual score for their answers. But basically through this, you can actually see the team's highest and the team's average, right? And you can actually identify things on the individual level and also on the team level. So if we keep going, team B is well in the lead, which is my team. So that's great.
No,
Okay.
that's my team.
Okay, so construct this sentence. On your screen now is options to construct a sentence, and the right option, the right sequence, of course, is this boy is named Joe. Okay, please submit. I want to just get to the last one so I can show you the leaderboard, and then we can, oh, sorry, the report, and then we can end the session because I know we are over time. This was meant to be the bonus. Okay, so I'm going to end the phase right now. Cool. So we got most of your responses in anyways, so that's good. So again, this is based on the correct answers that I gave, and you can see each team's average response time and which team got it correct. So in the gallery, like I said, in the gallery, you'll be able to see the like the detailed responses. Oh, that was the last one. Okay, so Team B is a winner. Well done. I forgot that this was the last activity. Okay, so let's go to the gallery very quickly. So here you can see like the aftermath of, what just happened. So here you can see Team A, and we can click to view more. We can see who got it wrong and right. Okay, we can see the team's percentage accuracy score and the average time. We can view it in the everyone mode, and in the everyone mode, we can actually see everyone's response. Yeah. And we can also see it in this mode, which is easier to read, and you can see who responded what. Now with the auto scoring quiz, same thing. We can see each person's individual percentage, and we can click into it to see everyone's percentage as well. So Shan got it 100% because he wrote exactly what I wrote. I changed this to small just to show you that it actually, picks that up. So it's got a 96% average, and A got most of it, like because it talked about mouth to large intestine. So really good, 76%. Starts in the mouth, but the rest of it didn't quite match. It ends in the intestine does match. So, so on and so forth. As you can see that the accuracy is based on the closeness to my response in terms of vocabulary used and also in terms of context. Yes. Okay, very cool.
And Adit, yes. So we have a question on can this result be exported?
Yeah, of course. So let me show you that. Okay, so we have this, which is the graph activity, and this, which is the open-ended one, where you can see each person's response and how they were peer evaluated. Now, great. Okay, so we go to reports. Now, in the report section, we can see the overall engagement of the session. Now, the engagement, like I said, is a holistic percentage based on how much each person in your session is actually engaging with activities. A lot more fun than word clouds and polls. Thank you, June. I appreciate it. This session recording will be uploaded to YouTube. Perfect. Okay. So engagement is based on how the overall engagement of the session, based on how much each person is engaging with the activities, whether they're doing the collaboration, whether or not they're completing the activity to its fullest potential, right? Accuracy is, of course, based on accuracy, most engaging, least engaging, and difficult, and who needs help, right? So overall most engaged, overall least engaged. And then if we go into the activity level view, we can see the activity level breakdown. This gives you the engagement percentage. This gives you the participation rate, which is a participation percentage. The participation rate is based on what percentage of your session. So we had 16 out of 22 responses, so that's a 72% response rate. The engagement rate is the overall percentage of whether people are actually doing the other components of this activity, which is like, collaboration, peer-to-peer learning. Yeah, then this one is about, just about engagement rate. So when you have a close-ended activity, that's based on accuracy, right? So here, same thing with accuracy, okay? And we can also look at it as of course, this is what every trainer or educator loves, right? So we have this where you can see each player's in-depth output. So, and it's color-coded. Green means good, red means bad, yellow is, so, right? So here we can see the overall score. We can, just you can do it in ascending or descending on each of the columns, and finally on the team mode, right? So you can see it by team, or you can see it by participant. One of the questions was, can you export this? You can export all of this as a PDF, as an Excel, and it's emailed to you, okay? And like I said, if you are actually integrated into the LMS, you don't need to export any of it. The results of this session are going to be exported into your grade center, into your LMS directly or seamlessly. Last bit, I promise, is about sharing content. So if I want to actually share this with, say, Suing or anyone else here on this call, I can actually publish a template. I give it a title, a description, a category, some hashtags to make it searchable. And if I actually just submit it, like it'll become publicly accessible by anyone. Sometimes you have proprietary content that you want to protect. So you can actually share it privately with people, just with people actually. So to their email. So only they get access to it. If you choose to publish it publicly, then it lives in our global repository of content that is submitted to by everyone in our system. So basically users all over the world submit content to us and you can browse through it on your own time. Now, the last bit on this thing on sharing content, because I know that's a big problem for educators, is here. So what I just showed you is how to share content across organizations. Like if you have someone outside of your organization, or if you are not an enterprise user, but for our enterprise users, we actually provide you a personal and a shared workspace. So personal means it's yours. Shared means it's available to anyone across your entire organization, right? And so your organization admin has an admin panel where you can actually invite people to your organization. So this is our organization Codomo, and we can actually invite more people to it, and then we can collaborate through Rolljak on creating activities in our shared workspace. But no one can actually mess with my personal workspace because it's my own. I can choose to move sessions to my shared workspace so I can share it with everyone. Now that concludes the entire demo. I'm sorry for taking so much time. There is more to show you, but of course, I think you get the main bulk of it. The activity just now looks like it's a peer collaboration. Can learners see everything that other peers have posted and choose what to comment? So learners can see everything after the session ends. Yes, and then they can still leave comments post session. But if you're doing this live, just in the interest of classroom management or facilitation, they don't get to see everything, because like browsing through 40 different responses is kind of long and painstaking. So what we do allow you to do is we allow you to choose how many responses you want each participant to view, and we cap it at 6. It's a hard limit at this point, but of course there is a capability of letting people view as many as you want, but we've just capped it at 6 just to make things easy for user experience. Yeah. But of course, if you have some violent objections, please drop me a line and we can definitely talk about it. It's a nice tool, hope to use in the future. The educator, does it apply for? Yes, our educator discount applies for any educators. We usually don't really ask you much questions. So if you just submit us a request for educator discount, more than happy to facilitate that. And if you are a friend of IALs, of course, even if you don't have an institution email address, we will be happy to open up that educator discount to you, no questions asked. Yes, we do have monthly pricing. The pricing actually is can be found on our website. Actually, I can just show it to you like right now, because if I tell you the numbers, it's in USD and I'm gonna like confuse myself also. We have a pro and a premium plan. It's just 2 plans. What I just showed you was a premium plan. The difference with that is really just mainly on like the white labeling portion and having the admin panel to give out licenses and stuff like that. So, and finally, of course, the number of participants you can host at a time. So we don't have any limits on the number of participants you can, or rather the number of sessions you can run, but at a time you can only run 1 session, and 1 session can only have 100 participants max. Essentially, that's all. So that's the only difference. This is in USD. So I tell you in SGD, it's about 19 per month and 39 per month for the premium, right? But this is on a billed annually basis. If you look for the monthly one, then it's about 19 US and 39 US, which is a bit more in SGD. I'm not going to do the math for you right now. So yeah, so that's essentially it. But this is, of course, before our educator discount. You are more than welcome to drop us a line for educator discount. I need to find it on our website. We have an educator discount, I promise you. I should know where it is. Let me find it for you. I'll drop it in the chat. So I think that's all. Is there any other question?
No other questions. Just thanking you for your time and for sharing with us. So thank you, Aditya. Sorry, am I getting your name correct? Is it Aditya or Aditya?
Aditya, yeah, Aditya, you got it right.
Yeah. So yeah. So thanks everyone for coming in. Well, this session stretched out a little longer than we had intended, but well, it's very informative, and I think the demo really helped a lot. So without not wanting to hold everyone back, but can we trouble you to help us fill up the post-event survey? I'm gonna drop the link in the chat. And also, if you'd like to connect with Aditya, then please, his email, his LinkedIn profile, as in his link is there. And I'm just gonna share screen for a little longer. So here's the QR code if you'd like to use your phone. And well, here is Aditya's information. And would also like to just share about upcoming sessions. So the next innovBite session, which is in March, 30 March, it's on harnessing conversational AI to transform learning. So with the craze now about ChatGPT and whatnot, so we thought to do a little sharing on that, but in the context of education. And then we are also doing a research study called the innovation in the business of learning. So basically for this study, we are trying to understand and explore how do training providers or organizations with learning and development units, how do they do learning innovation? Yeah. So if you're interested, then just feel free to indicate your interest. So not to worry if you miss all this information. I will send them a post-event email following this session. So I will include this recording link to this session and also Aditya's information. And yeah, and Aditya's of course. And thank you everyone again for coming to this session. So
thank you so much. I've dropped the link in the chat.
Yep.
For educated discount.
Yes. So if anyone would like to, this is the end of the session. If anyone would like to stay back to chat a little bit more with Aditya, feel free to do so. Otherwise, thank you again and have a good rest of the week.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks for your time today. I'm sorry I went over.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Bye-bye.
much.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.